Welcome to the Tech M&A Podcast. Presented by the Corum Group. Welcome to the Tech M&A Podcast. Here we dive into the strategies, challenges, and candid stories of tech entrepreneurs who have successfully sold their companies. Today we speak to Barry Larson, founder and CEO of OK Alone, a Canadian company focused on providing employee safety monitoring solutions, who exited his company in November of 2023. Thanks for joining me today, Barry. Can you tell us a bit about OK Alone and the space you're in?
We specialized in supporting people who worked on their own, and in particular, they got into trouble. We could make sure that they would get help, and if they were unconscious, the system would still make sure they got help in a timely manner. And we had customers all over the world prior to our sale.
What problem was Trusty Ox trying to solve?
Yeah, so as I just described, we were in the safety and compliance marketplace. So there's a compliance piece around an employer's duty of care to make sure that people who work by themselves are safe. And that's really the role we fulfilled, was allowing them to be compliant. But we also allowed organizations to improve their business operations through the services that we provide. And they could do that a variety of ways, but it really came down to capturing data automatically and then having real-time reporting based on that data. And that saved our customers all sorts of time and energy.
Did you have a specific reason for going through the M&A process?
We had reached a natural break point in the company, which kind of left us with three options, actually. I dig into my personal piggy bank to fund the growth that we needed to do. I could go raise some money and again, fund that growth. Or we could sell out to a larger player in the space. And in the end, I chose the latter because that seemed to make the most sense for us. And part of that's because our market was in a consolidation phase. And I've been here before in other startups that I've done. And we missed the consolidation party. And that was kind of an unfortunate mistake that I made. So I didn't want to do that again. So I knew that being part of something bigger would make us stronger and more able to seize the opportunities that were ahead of us. So that's why we chose the acquisition route.
What made you choose Corum to assist with your transaction? Was there a particular part that was more difficult for you or the company itself?
I heard about Corum through a local trade association, of which I'm a member, and I subsequently attended one of their selling up and selling out seminars. And really the relationship grew from there. I suppose ultimately I chose Corum for a number of reasons. First and foremost, they had experience in selling in niche sectors like mine. So the lone working safety and compliance market is pretty niche, but they had done similar things in that space. So that was appealing to me. I like the fact they had a clear sales process, which really focused on that upstream pipeline development piece, which meant I was comfortable that we would get in front of as many buyers as possible and get the best deal outcome possible as well. That ties into sort of a third point around the research team who's on top of what buyers want at any given moment. So they're not only just sitting there crawling databases and doing Google searches, but they'll be talking to the Corum sales staff about what the buyers are telling them. And they can compile all of that. So it really helps you position your organization well when you actually get to market. Oh, I also like the fact that they had a team assigned to my account. So it wasn't just an individual sales handler. So there was always at least two people involved in the process. That made it good for, in the event some personnel had to change out, or more specifically, if we wanted just a different opinion on, a problem we were having in the process, there was always another fresh set of eyes to help us out. So that was really helpful as well. And then sort of selfishly, the Corum also has a celebration event, which I didn't realize at the time. I just thought it'd be good fun. But it actually brought closure to the process because it is quite an emotional process. So we all get together. Some previous CEOs who just sold out would go down and Corum hosts a great week of just celebrating the achievement and getting to know other people and learning from their experiences. And that's proved incredibly valuable to me as I move on.
Sounds like Corum's process really worked for you. Did any steps in the process surprise you?
I think the main surprise was, as I've alluded to, we were fairly niche. So in my experience, I was expecting a buyer pool of maybe 20, 30 companies might have some interest in us. But Corum opened up my eyes to realize that there was, 200 or 300 organizations out there who might be more interested in us. And their structured approach of working through that list of potential buyers eventually led to the outcome that we achieved. And I was always very grateful for that.
What was non-negotiable for you during your deal?
when I look back on this, I've been involved in other deals in the past, and sometimes they'll do an earnout or a bonus based on, future potential or future profits. And that was always a non-starter for me. I've seen this go horribly wrong, mainly because profits are easily manipulated. So the seller will think they're getting, deal A, and they'll actually end up getting something much, much short of that. So that was going to be a non-starter for us. Fortunately, with our particular buyer, we were able to sit down and negotiate a much more win-win approach to how the deal would be played out. And that worked out well for everybody.
How did you manage the balancing act of running the company and running the process simultaneously?
My focus throughout all of this was to maintain my eye on the business and the business results, which is the key reason I actually hired Corum. I let them do all the marketing and, the arranging meetings and all that kind of thing. And naturally, when we got to the presentation stage, I had to get involved and do the presentations, but it really left me free to just focus on doing the business every day. There was a couple of periods during due diligence where my time and energies were shifted, but otherwise I was able to stick to the day job pretty much. And like I said, that's key because you don't want to get halfway through a sales process and then suddenly your business performance starts to fall off. M&A has a way of catering all sorts of distractions, which seemed so important at the time. But I was, on more than one occasion, happy to bump off some M&A deadlines to make sure that my customers' needs were met. It raised a few eyebrows, but I have no regrets because our results were very good. In fact, I think in the 3 years prior to our sale, we had 41, 55, and 60% growth rates. So no regrets on that.
Though it sounds like you had an overall great experience, did you have any doubts?
Yeah, there were definitely times during the negotiation that Barry was being grumpy. It's on the usual two things that this pops up. One is on your pricing model or your valuation, and then the other is on the liabilities that they want to put into the share purchase agreement. I was lucky. I had a very good legal team that I was working with, and then Corum to provide guidance on, okay, here's what market is saying is actually normal. More often than not, I was the one being unreasonable, but that didn't make it feel any better at the time. So, I that definitely walked away from the process twice. But again, cooler heads prevailed. Understanding really how this fits into the grand scheme of things was helpful, and both Corum and my legal team enabled that to happen.
Having gone through it, what advice would you give to those considering a process?
I think two things. Preparation is key. So from the day I filed the incorporation papers on the organization, I was already thinking about the exit. So that drove all sorts of decisions. And I would just throw out that ultimately, the buyer of your business is just another customer. So think about all the things that you would want to know if you were in their shoes, and then start designing your data and your reporting and your systems and all that to address those types of questions. And the second thing I would say is make sure you're actually committed to the sale and you're doing it for the right reasons. I've seen other people walk into it. Well, I would sell, but only if I got so much money. That's not really helpful. There's a ton of work that has to go in advance of you ever getting an offer. You need to be absolutely committed to this. It's not fair to try to dump it on, your broker or Corum or whoever to get you this big number and then everything's great. You need to be committed all the way in and then see it through to the end. And if you do that, you should be fine.
It is interesting that it's a professional transaction, but at its core, it's so personal. You've put all your working years of effort into this. It must take 100% commitment and faith that what you're doing is right, the right direction. Finally, what's life like now that you've completed your deal?
The biggest thing I noticed is the change in time. In business, you're always short of time. Now I can take time to look at opportunities in a different way, and I'm really quite enjoying that. So this applies to personal projects, like I've had time to go back to university, and it also applies to looking at any sort of new ventures that I want to get involved with.
That's so cool you want to go back to school. Are there any personal or professional dreams you want to pursue with that?
Yeah, I think it ties into what I was just saying. I've reached a stage in life where, I only have to say yes to projects if I find them fun or meaningful. So the need to have a paycheck or looking at a promising career path really isn't that big a deal to me. So I happen to live on the West Coast. The ocean plays a major role in our day-to-day lives, and there are all sorts of exciting projects happening in the blue economy. And so I'm just currently casting my line out there and seeing what excites me and what might catch me.
Thank you so much, Barry. Thank you for tuning in to the Tech M&A Podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with your friends, colleagues, and fellow entrepreneurs. We release new episodes every 2 weeks, so make sure to subscribe and stay up to date on our latest interviews and Tech M&A research. And while you're there, go ahead and drop us a rate and review. And if you have any suggestions or topics you'd like us to cover, please reach out to us on social media or email us at info@corumgroup.com. Join us again next time for more inspirational stories and practical tips from tech founders who have successfully navigated the exits of their companies.